Ever since John Wick's breakthroughs about rage, we've been discovering more and more things about rage every single day. And in this video, I'm going to talk about some recent discoveries I've made with this talent right here, Rejuvenate, in the support tree. Is this talent still any good? Should you max this talent out? Well, those are the questions we're going to answer in this video, so stick around. What's up, everybody? Psych out here with another Rise of Kingdoms video. Look, John Wick and his crew have made some really important discoveries about rage. We've done a little bit of talking about that. I'll put a card at the top where you can see one of the videos where I talked about some of those discoveries. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about this talent right here, Rejuvenate. And look, I've always loved this talent. I think a lot of people have loved this talent in the support tree because it says instantly restores 150 rage whenever a skill is used. That's the primary and the secondary commanders. So that's 150 rage plus another 150 rage. That just should accelerate you through your skill cycle. But we recently learned a lot about how rage works. We learned about base rage, we learned about rage compensation, and we learned most importantly about the rage cap of 220 rage per turn. Well, even if you are getting very little compensation, even if you're winning the fight, even if you're getting 86 your base rage and 150, you are already breaking that rage cap, which means you're going to be reduced down to 220 no matter what. So that raises a question, particularly when you have talents like Burning Blood, or maybe you have talents like Undying Fury on your marches. Should you really be going down here to Rejuvenate and putting 3 points into it? Well, that's the thing we explored in this video, and I'm going to jump over to some Excel spreadsheets, and you're going to see a little different look in this one as I walk us through it. So join me over there in just a moment. Okay, welcome back, everybody, to this little spreadsheet I've put together. These are not real battle tests, but these are tests that follow the guidelines, the analysis that Wick Gaming has done, that follow all of those rules. I've tested this before with real battle tests, and everything lines up. Of course, Wick has tested this as well, and they line up with what they test as well. So it's using all of those formulas, all the formulas that we now know about rage, to see what it would be like with different builds with Saladin. And this includes those talents. This also includes whether you're winning or whether you're losing the fight. This also includes whether you're using Rejuvenate with 3 points in it versus 2 points in it, whether your opponents have Silent Trial, a whole variety of things that we're going to test. And we're going to test it. I'm going to start down here at the bottom by telling you that we're going to test this with Saladin and XY. We're going to test this with Saladin and Khan. We're going to test this with Saladin and Mehmed, which is the march that I use, which is basically just a way of saying, well, what happens if we use it Saladin with just an ordinary commander? XY reduces the amount of rage it costs. As you can see, I've listed the rage requirements here for the Saladin XY pair. It's only 950. I'll show you over here with Saladin and Khan that rage requirement is only 900. And then again, if we go to Saladin and Mehmed here, we see the rage requirement is 1,000. And then finally, I'm also going to show you as just something for fun, an XY Saladin. If we have XY as a primary and Saladin as a secondary, how do all of these things play out? So first, I'm going to describe a little bit about what I did. And I'm not going to go through all of these charts because you'll see that we did lots and lots of variations. And then I'll jump to a summary table where I explain how you can use all of this to choose the right talent trees, to use Rejuvenate properly, to which commanders you want to have primary, and those kinds of things. So let's start with some really simple conditions. Let's imagine it's a fight. We have Saladin XY. We are winning that fight. That means we are only gaining 86 rage for the attack, and we're gaining 16 rage on the counterattack. This is something Wick showed us, that it's about 86 and 16 if you're winning. If you're losing on both of those, you'll get an extra 10 rage compensation, so it would be 96 and 26. So let's assume in this case that we are winning. You'll see down here below, I have the case where we are losing. And what we have here is turn 0, so nothing happens. There's no rage being accumulated. And then we go all the way on to 27 turns. Why 27 turns? I don't know. It's arbitrary. It doesn't really matter for our purposes, and you'll see why here in a little bit. So this is when we are winning. This is when we are losing. A couple of other things we're going to vary here, whether or not we have Undying Fury, and I think is it Burning Blood? I think those are the two talents. I think it is. I'm going to double check here real quickly. Yes, so Burning Blood is the one in the support tree, and Undying Fury is the one in the cap tree. So this is the one that assumes that we just have the one in the support tree that is Burning Blood, which grants us 9 rage each attack or each turn. And so in this one here, we're going to assume that we only have Undying Fury, or rather Burning Blood. This one over here is the one where we have both. We have both Burning Blood and Undying Fury, so we're gaining 18 rage, whereas here we're only gaining 9. You can see that happens for every turn. And then we're also going to be looking here at Rejuvenate. So Rejuvenate gives us 150 every time we cast the skill. And then we also get 150 every time our secondary commander casts a skill, which is always going to be 2 seconds or 2 turns later. So that's basically the setup. And then you just run down through and say, okay, well, how much rage did I gain? And I've done some formulas here to make sure that if we go over the rage cap, it resets us to 220. As you can see here on this turn where we actually cast our skill, we did go over the rage cap, so it resets us to 220. And this is the running total of how much rage we have. And then once we reach this requirement of 950, you see we reached the requirement. So we will trigger the skill, and the next turn is when we will cast the skill, proccing Rejuvenate, and so on. And so we've done this for those are the key variables. I've also looked at, and I'm going to go over here to the right. This is what happens when we have Rejuvenate with only 2 points in it rather than 3. If we only have 2 points in it, we're only gaining 100 rage. And you can see right away that it seems to make a difference. That's 211 rage we're gaining on that turn versus 220 over here where we have all 3 points in it. So it's costing us 9 rage every time we cast the skill. So we get 211 there, and we're again going to get to 211 here, right? Those two are 211 instead of 220. And the question is, does this actually have an impact on the battlefield? Because you can see here at 999 rage, I'm actually wasting 44 rage. I only needed 950, so I've got 49 rage that's being wasted. And so the question is, does this lost rage, for example, the lost rage of not having 2 talents, does the lost rage from going from Rejuvenate with 150 to 100 points actually cost us? Does it actually slow down our skill cycle? That's one question we're going to ask. The other question we're going to ask, and this one doesn't have to do with Rejuvenate, is how fast do we fire off our skills? And that's a really important question, because in a lot of fighting in Rise of Kingdoms, you want to be the first to fire your skill. If you fire your skill first, you do more damage first, and that means your opponent has fewer troops, which means they do less damage to you back. So firing your skill first is really important. There's also lots of situations where you fire your skill and you run away. And so if you fired your skill and you've run away, your opponent can't hit you with their skill and you just win. So firing your skill first is really critical. The second thing that's really critical is having a short skill cycle. And those are the 2 key variables we're going to be looking at when we look at all of these analysis that I've done here. So again, we've got when we're winning here, we've got when we are losing here, we've got with only 1 talent, with 2 talents, we've got with Rejuvenate giving us 100 points versus Rejuvenate giving us 150 points. And again, we've got all the combinations, right? So 1 talent, here's 2 talents, and then I finally have one more that we've put in. This is again with losing, all the exact same thing as above, but this time we're losing, so we're getting 96 and 26. And then what happens if our opponent has a silent trial in effect? That is, we're facing one opponent who has a silent trial. Of course, we can think of lots more iterations. We could have multiple opponents with multiple silent trials. We can have opponents running Nebu or Mulan who are reducing our rage as well. And I have not tested all of those. And there's one other final thing that we haven't talked about here, and that's going to be an XY test with that skill that everybody's talking about, feral nature. How useful is that? That's something we're going to have to test in another video. But this is what we've got in this video. These are all the factors we're testing. We are testing whether winning, losing, how many talents we have, and how many points we have in Rejuvenate and Silent Trial. Now I'm going to jump, and again, I showed you that we've got the same layout with Saladin and XY. Things have changed with the range requirements. I've set this all up so that I can tell which turn we first cast on. So in this case, we first cast on turn 10. In this case, we first cast on turn 9. Notice that's the difference between having 1 versus 2 talents. This is a key theme we're going to come back to later. The other thing we want to look at is the distance between casts. And so here we can see that is a count of 8. There are 8 turns between turn. The first time we cast and the second time, and again, we see that again here, there are 8 turns between there. And here we see that that's only 7. So again, with those 2 talents, that's the difference between these two. We have a faster skill cycle. And those are the 2 things we're going to be focusing on here. And we'll jump over to the results to show you. The first question is, when do we fire our first skill? On which turn did we fire that first skill? And the second question we're going to ask is, how long was the cycle duration? Again, shorter is better. We want lower numbers for all of these.
And I've put these charts together, and I've got filters and all of these kinds of things here to sort of show you what's going on. But here's our primary, and here is our secondary Saladin XY. This tells us if we were winning or losing. So yes, we're winning means we're not getting the rage compensation. Losing means yes, we are getting that rage compensation. When we have two talents versus not. So here, no, we don't have two talents. Here we do. And then whether or not Rejuvenate is giving us 150 points, that's the yes, or only 100 points, that's the no. And then finally, whether or not our opponent has a silent trial. And this is no, they don't. This is yes, they do. Okay, so let's take a quick look at a couple of things. This is going to be a really important theme, and just sort of cut to the chase on some of this. It's nice to compare these pairs, particularly when we're looking at the first skill cycle. So 10 versus 9, 9 versus 8, because what that is comparing is right here. Do we have two talents? Do we have two talents? Do we have two talents? Do we have two or not? Right. So when we don't have two talents, the first cycle, it takes a turn longer. And that's true whether we're winning or whether we're losing. So even when we're losing, we actually get faster. We fire it at 8 turns when we're losing, and we have both of the rage talents. Again, we see the exact same pattern here. This is because nothing's changing. The only thing that's changing here is Rejuvenate, which does not affect our first skill cycle. But now let's look here. If we have two talents and we're winning, we fire a turn earlier. If we have two talents and we're losing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt us. Okay, so only in the case of we are losing and we have two talents, does that two talents not make us go any faster on our first skill cycle? In all the other conditions, we fire our skill off one turn sooner, which is really valuable. And again, this is in part because the silent trial is hurting us. It's cutting out one of those talents effectively in this scenario. So that's the first thing to take away here when we're looking at Saladin XY, is that the first skill cycle, you really probably want to have Saladin with two talents. I can jump to another. Let me jump to Khan real quickly. We'll come back to skill cycle duration, but let me jump to Khan to show you this exact same pattern. 10-9, okay, 8-8. So here it didn't matter. Okay, 10-10 didn't matter. 9-8, it did matter, right? So it does matter in this circumstance, and these are not in the same order. You notice in this case there's a silent trial versus not, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, we're looking at these pairs where we're comparing the rage talents. Again, 10-9, again, we get a turn faster. Here it doesn't matter. Here it doesn't matter. Here it does. So in a lot of cases, it does seem to matter if we have that second rage talent or not. That's a really valuable piece of information to know. We can look at cycle duration the same way. See, it's a little faster when we have two rage talents. It doesn't matter. Here doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Does matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So in some cases it does matter. In some cases it doesn't. But big deal is it does seem to matter a lot more on that first skill. And again, I will go to method and we'll do the same thing here. Again, we see a difference. We see no difference. We see no difference. We see a difference. No difference. No difference. Or sorry, there is a difference. There's no difference. No difference, and there is a difference. So about half the time we are seeing that having those two talents does fire off a little faster. And again, if we look at the skill cycle differences, some of the time, not quite half the time, but at least some of the time. So when we are winning, and our opponent does not have silent trial, it seems to help us out in that circumstance. So really, it's really just when we are winning, we want to have those two rage talents. So there's quite a few scenarios where when your Saladin is primary, you actually do want to have those two rage talents. And that's one of the things that the big takeaways that I came away with this was you do want to have those two rage talents on Saladin. My Saladin does not currently have the build with both rage talents, but I think that's wrong. I think I need to change my build to get those two rage talents on Saladin. So that's takeaway number one from this video. I'm going to jump back to the Saladin XY pair to look at skill cycle duration. And this is where we're going to really talk about Rejuvenate and how useful this Rejuvenate is. So here we want to compare this set right here, 8877, with this set right here, which is, this is all where our opponent does not have a silent trial, 8877. So it does not seem to matter if we have 3 points in Rejuvenate, that's all the yeses, versus 2 points in Rejuvenate, that's all the nos. We still get the exact same skill cycle duration. That's what Rejuvenate's supposed to be helping us with. It's supposed to be speeding up that skill cycle. So losing those 9 points, like I showed earlier, does not seem to affect our skill cycle when our opponent does not have silent trial. Now, what about when our opponent has silent trial? Well, let's look here. We see 9888 and 9888. So again, having 3 points in Rejuvenate does not seem to help us with Saladin XY whether we're winning or losing, or whether our opponent has a silent trial, or whether we have 2 rage talents or not, it doesn't seem to be any situation where having 3 points in Rejuvenate is really tipping the scales in our favor. I'm going to jump to another pair. Let's jump over to Saladin Khan to see what happens there. And again, we're going to be looking at, we want to be comparing all of these Rejuvenates to these ones without. And so I think it's this 4 here, 8777, to this 4 here, 8777. And again, we don't see any difference. That's identical. Now let's compare these 4, 8877. And these 4 here, 8877. Again, it does not matter if our opponent has silent trial. It doesn't matter if we have 2 rage talents versus 1. If we're winning or losing, in all cases, having that extra point in Rejuvenate does not increase our skill cycle, does not add that value that we want to our skill cycle. And finally, I'm going to jump to Saladin Mehmed, because this is one that takes a 1,000 rage requirement. So maybe it would make a difference here. That's a sensible theory. So let's compare these Rejuvenates. Those are all the yeses. These are all the nos. So we need 9888. And again, here we have 9888. So it doesn't matter winning, losing, 2 rage talents or not, silent trial. These are all the no silent trial conditions. It seems like it doesn't matter, that we're still getting either a 9-second or an 8-second skill cycle. And it has nothing to do with putting 3 points versus 2 points in Rejuvenate. When our opponent does have silent trial, again, we see 9988 and 9988. So it does not matter. It does not increase our skill cycle by having that 3rd point in Rejuvenate. And so this was really a pretty mind-blowing result for me. Rejuvenate, putting a 3rd point in Rejuvenate, does not seem to add anything to Saladin. Now, there might be scenarios. Like I said, we haven't tested when Mulan or Nebu or anything like that is debuffing your rage even more when you're facing more silent trials. And there may be some situations where it really does add that value. But that 1 point in Rejuvenate could be put in a number of other places. I just mentioned one place you might want to put it in is Undying Fury. You want to get that talent maxed out. That does seem to increase your first skill, and does seem to increase your skill cycle duration, or decrease the duration of your skill cycle in a lot of really valuable places. So probably one of those points should go into Undying Fury. Possibly another point could go into the top of the Cav tree, could go into Cavalry Health. There's a few other places that you could think about putting points, but the big picture here is it doesn't seem to be any real value of putting that 3rd point in Rejuvenate. Okay, finally, I want to jump to the last pair that we've looked at here, which is actually, let's see if I can get them all up. It is going to be XY as a primary with Saladin as a secondary. And this one is kind of interesting because a couple of things that we learn about this one, and I didn't talk about this much in the other one, but you may have noticed. And if you go back and watch this video, you can really take a close look at some of these charts and some of these results. And you can notice that silent trial really is having a pretty powerful effect. But here's a commander where we don't see that effect. So with XY Saladin, it doesn't matter whether we're winning or losing. Well, I mean, we do fire off our skill a little bit faster if we're losing, same thing here, but that's whether we're facing silent trial or not. We are firing off our first skill cycle. The other thing that doesn't matter is whether or not we have 2 rage talents. So those are the same, those are the same, those are the same, those are the same. Same thing for skill cycle duration, whether we have 1 or 2 rage talents. So what that means is that on XY, you probably don't want both Burning Blood and Undying Fury. You probably want to skip Undying Fury on XY, and you want to probably go out there for XY's Rejuvenate, so you will get Burning Blood. And of course, that Rejuvenate in the skill tree only gets 60 rage every skill cycle, or every time a skill fires off, rather than 150 like support trees Rejuvenate. But in any case, this means that you can probably save some talent points on XY. And again, if we haven't tested such situations where you're facing more rage debuff commanders like Nebu or Mulan, or you're facing more silent trials. But for right now, it does seem like there is some value to be saved by only using 1 rage talent on XY. And this doesn't matter if your opponent is using the silent trial or not. You seem to get quite a bit of value. In fact, XY to some extent seems to be, notice 9988, 9988, 8877, 8877. Silent trial doesn't seem to be affecting him. And I will jump back over here to a Saladin, and let's jump to just the XY. And we can really notice the effect of silent trial here. So let's just look at it. Let's just look at some of these here. So we've got 8877, 9888. So in only one condition, and only in this condition, did silent trial not matter. Otherwise, it cost us a turn on our skill cycle, right? Every skill cycle, one turn slower here, 8877, 9888. So silent trial is really powerful. And you're really going to want to have those silent trials in your arsenal, if whether you're battling in a garrison or whether you're battling on the field. So that really does it for this video. There are three really big takeaways for me. Number one is that if you are using Saladin, you probably want to go with both rage talents. It will improve in many scenarios the speed with which you fire off your first skill cycle. It will also improve in many scenarios your skill cycle duration. It will decrease that duration by 1 turn if you have both of the rage talents maxed. The other major finding here is that Rejuvenate really doesn't seem to be adding a whole lot of value if you put 3 points in it. So that's in the support tree. So you probably want to only put 2 points in that Rejuvenate support tree, which might seem crazy to lots of people, but I just don't see any evidence that it's adding any value for us in any of these pretty reasonable scenarios. And the final takeaway from this video here is that silent trial is really good. You need to get silent trials. You're going to want to use silent trials. If you can special talent them, probably even better. I didn't do analyses on special talented silent trials, but you can imagine those would even have a bigger impact. So look, thanks so much for watching this video, guys. If you like this video, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification so you get notified every time I put out a new video. Thanks so much for coming by, and we'll see you all real soon.